All right, this lesson is on special right triangles. We have what's called a 45-45-90 triangle and a 30-60-90 triangle. Those are the angle measures of our right triangles, and I guess had done tons of calculations. They figured out that these two triangles have a pattern, so they're easier to figure out. What you're going to discover in the next lesson is what happens when they're not 45-45-90 or 30-60-90, like they're 29 degrees and 61 degrees and things like that. That's what we're going to use this what's called trigonometry functions, but these two can be done without any special functions. All right, so let's talk about the 45-45-90 triangle. And the idea behind the triangle is whatever's going on with the angle, the side opposite is being affected. So if I open this angle up larger, then this side would get longer. And that's the idea. So if these two angles are the same size, the understanding would be that these two sides are the same length. Because if I open up 45 degrees, this side is just as wide an opening as this side is down here for this angle. So if we wanted to, if we put an X right here and an X right here for any of them, then what they discovered was that the the hypotenuse is always square root of 2 bigger than the other two. So I'm going to put down here every leg is x, and the hypotenuse is x square root of 2. All right, and so you don't really need to know how to do square roots per se. Just know that if I give you a certain length x over here that are leg lengths, all you have to do is put a square root of 2 after it, and that's the size of it. Okay, so let's do number 1. Okay, number 1. Okay, the side opposite 45 is 8. So that means that this guy is also 8, and then this one would be 8 square root 2. And that's all you have to write. Okay? All right. Doing this problem, side opposite 45 is 25, so this guy also has to be 25, and this one's going to be 25 square root of 2. Okay. All right. When you get to the last one, this one's a little bit trickier because they did not give you that third side as having a square root on it, and what do you do? All right. So the way that I would do this is I would say, well, this is a square root of 2 bigger than the other two. All right. So if I want to figure out the other two sides, I'm going to take the square root of 2 out of 19. So I'm going to take 19 and divide it by the square root of 2. Now, you guys have not learned how to do this, but it's really quite simple. All you have to do is multiply the top and bottom by the square root of 2, which I know sounds complicated, but it's not. Remember, this is all, no matter how ugly these numbers get, anything over itself is always 1, so we're just changing its looks. So what ends up happening is these two guys end up being together. Okay, so that would be 19 square root of 2. Now, the square root of 2 times the square root of 2 is the square root of 4, which is 2. So what ends up happening is the bottom square root gets removed. And that's all you're doing. So you could do it quite quickly. All you do is if you have to divide, just slide it to the next to it and then divide it by the number without a square root on it. All right, and then remember x and y are the same size. Okay, so that's how that works. And so going back and forth can be a little bit tricky. But again, remember, if you're going backwards from the hypotenuse, you have to divide. Okay, when I went forwards from bigger to smaller to bigger, all I had to do was put a square root of 2 on it. So going forward into bigger, into getting the hypotenuse is easy. Going backwards, you just have to remember to divide. And again, We're going to keep it simple. When we practice these, you'll know what I'm talking about. All right, so the 30, 60, 90 triangle is slightly different. All right, so again, because you have three different lengths, three different measures of angles, a 30, a 60, and a 90, that means all three sides are going to have different measurements. It's not like here where two sides are the same and the third is not. All three sides of these are going to be the same. So how does that work? So the side opposite 30, again, the smallest angle is going to be opposite the smallest side. All right, so that means that this side, we're going to make this x. Okay, when we found out that this was x, somebody did a lot of calculating and found out that if you multiply the smallest side by 2, you can get the hypotenuse. They also learned if you took the smallest side and multiply it by the square root of 3, you get the side opposite the 60. So the shorter leg is x, the longer leg is x squared root of 3, and the hypotenuse is 2x. Okay? So we're going to play with that when we do these now. All right, so we want to see, so this is the 60, so this is the 30. All right, so the 30 is the 5. All right, so the 60, so remember this is 5, so this is going to be, so that's the 5. Now I want the longer side, which is the 60. Actually, you know what we'll do? Let's throw in the angle measures next to it to kind of help us out. Actually, you don't need that, but the 30 and the 60 kind of helping us out. All right, so the side opposite 30 is 5. So that means x is 5. So the next one's going to be x squared root of 3. So this guy is 5 squared root of 3. And again, our shortest side is 5, but the hypotenuse is just 2 times it. So this is going to be 10. Okay? All right, so let's do this again. So the side opposite that I have is 14. Okay, so that means this is 14. X is, now before I would label this and then do this second. All right, so then the side that's the hypotenuse is just times 2. So 2 times 14, that's 28. And then this guy, the last one, the longer side, is just the number times the square root of 3. So x is 28 and y is 14 square root of 3. Okay. All right. Now, this one is a little bit harder, not too bad. Okay, so we know we've got some easy numbers I can work with. So if I don't have the 30, I'll go get it. But I do have the hypotenuse, so I know that 2x is equal to 32. So that means the shortest side is going to be 16. So the shortest side is x in this case, so this is 16. And then again, I know this is 16, so now I just put a 16 square root of 3. And then I go down here, 16 and 16 square root of 3. All right, so I'm only trying to find one of the, just 2 out of 3 of the sides. All right, so again, 46. So the short side is this one. So 2x is equal to 46, so x is equal to 23, so that's a 23. And then this guy over here is always 23 square root of 3. Okay, so x is 23. I don't look at the letters out here. I just figure out the numbers first and then I fill in this, because otherwise this x is different from this x. You know, it doesn't have to be the same. X just means some sort of number. I could have actually put here n, and 2n. n square root of 3, 2n. Could have been n instead of x if I wanted to. All right, so let's see if they get a little bit harder. Okay, so now they're getting a little bit harder. This one's harder. Yes, both of these are harder. So how are we going to do them? All right, so let's do this number 9 first. 9 looks easier. Okay, so we know we have the 6. Before we've been either given the hypotenuse or the shortest side, which was easy. It was these two. And going back and forth was easy. But now we're being given this. So just like we did with the 45, 45, 90, I've got to take that out. So I'm going to take 9 square root of 3 and divide it by the square root of 3, because I need x. I have x squared root of 3. Okay, so if you compare 9 squared root of 3 and x squared root of 3, you already know what x is going to be. But anyway, you get 9. So the short side is 9. Okay, if the short side is 9, the hypotenuse is always 2 times it. So that's 18. All right, so x is 9 and y is 18. All right, so when you're given the middle side, you have to go backwards to get the shorter leg so you can get both the other two. Okay, if you're given the middle one, like you are here. Okay, so see how this one's in the middle? Okay, this is the middle side. Okay, so we have to do 20 divided by the square root of 3. Okay, 20 divided by the square root of 3. And remember, I just showed you, just take 20 square root of 3 and write a 3 over it. Okay, put it next to it. So that's what I told you right here, right here. You end up, looks like you're sliding it up. So the 19 slides up, and then the 2 becomes a 2 without a square root on it. That's what I'm doing here. So this one belongs, let's see, I did this, so dividing it will give me the short side, so that's 20 square root of 3 over 3. Now, remember that the hypotenuse is 2 times it, so all I have to do is multiply this number by 2. So this number is going to be 40 square root of 3 over 3. Okay, that's a toughie. So this is 40 square root of 3 over 3, and this is 20 square root of 3 over 3. Again, it's only difficult when you have to work backwards. When you're given the hypotenuse, you can divide by 2 to get the short side. That's easy. When you're given the longer side and you want to get back to the shorter side, you have to divide by the square root of 3, and that's where this one and this one, we're doing that. This one's easier, this one's the harder. That's why I did that one last. All right. Okay, so we're going to practice a couple of these. So now they're mixed up. You've got the 45s mixed up with 45-90s mixed up with the 30-60s. And so we're going to do, I think I said do all the odds. So I'm going to do a couple of the evens. All right, so I'm going to do, let's see. Actually, I'll do 11, 13, let's see, that's a 60, that's a 30, that's 15, and then I want to do some of these little crazy ones down here, so I'm going to do 20, I'll do 23. Okay, so I'm going to just do these 4. All right, so number 11. Again, you want to look for the shortest side, which I don't have, but I do have the hypotenuse. We don't mind, because when we have the hypotenuse, remember we have 2x, so we have 2 times what we need. So I'm going to take, so my short side, which is down here, I'm going to take 16 and divide it by 2. So that's going to give me 8. Okay, once I have x, then the 60 side becomes x times the square root of 3. All right. Again, ignore the variables. Just fill out the spaces and then put in the variables. Fill in the blanks here. All right. So this is 8 square root of 3, and this is 8. Okay. All right. Number 13. Okay. So ignore the letters and just fill in the spaces. All right. So if the opposite is 30, remember this is x. So this is, so if you want to, you can remind yourself that this is x, this is 2x, and this is x squared root of 3. Ignore the actual letters that are in the problem, all right? So here x is 11, all right? So that means y is 2 times 11, which is 22. And then x is 11, so this x is 11 squared root of 3. And that's all there is to it. So it's easier if you just put honestly, if you just put the things next to it and you just tell you, like this is equal to 11. So I can do it. All right, so like for instance, let's do 15. Okay, this is 9 square root of 2. Remember, this is x square root of 2. This is x. This is x. Okay, if this is x squared root of 2, compare the two. What does x have to be equal to? You can look at it. Good. X has to be 9. Okay. So these all both have to be 9. So this X is 9, and this Y is also 9. Okay. So again, ignore the letters that are actually in the problem and just put the X, this stuff written on it. It'll help out. All right, so let's jump down to number 23, where I've got a combination of both of them. And I do this because I've got to figure out, I've got too many missing sides. So I have to figure out what I have enough information to do. All right, so looks like, see with the 30, 60, 90, I don't have any sides. I don't have this side here. I don't have the 60 degrees side. I don't have the short side, the 30. I don't have the hypotenuse. So I can't do this triangle first, so I'm going to have to do this one first, the 45, 45, 90. All right, so we put x's in here, x squared root of 2, and x. All right, so I look at that, and since I can compare these, I now know x is 15. So this is 15, and this is 15. So I know z is now 15. All right, where's my, x and y I haven't done yet. Okay, so now I know this is 15. So again, now I have to do this guy. I will draw them separately. This is x, this is y, and this is now 15. Okay, this is the 60. Okay, so this is x, right? Oh no, sorry, x squared of 3, because that's opposite of 60. This is x, this is 2x. All right, so it looks like 15 is equal to x squared of 3, so that means I have to take 15 and divide it by the square root of 3, okay, to get that. So that's 15 square root of 3 over 3. Remember, you slide it up and then write it without the square root on it, okay? That's for y, and then once I get that, x, now I just multiply it by 2. So, my final x, which is the one in the picture, is 30 square root of 3 over 3. And y in my picture is down here, which is 15 square root of 3 over 3. And that's it. So it's a little complicated. Hopefully I didn't confuse it too much. But hopefully that worked out for you.